Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. Welcome to another installment of Toolbox Tuesday, where we try to sharpen your saw and put tools in your toolbox and make you an awesome Toastmaster, presenter, and well-rounded human being, or we certainly do our best. Tonight, we have a special treat. Our presenter this evening is Jessica Parker, and she will be covering online meetings and online webinars. Jessica, through her work and through her Toastmaster Club, has a great deal of experience of doing online meetings, both personally and professionally. She's done a number of them over the last several years. She's picked up a few skills on what works well and what does not. Tonight, Jessica is going to share with us some of the tips that she's learned, what works well, what could work better, how to get the most out of running a Zoom or similar type of online meeting. Please help me welcome distinguished Toastmaster, Jessica Parker.
Nice. Thank you so much, Michael. I'm going to go ahead and share my slideshow. I got started for us. Online or video meetings for Toastmasters. It's a great set of tools. I use them every day. Now, of course, you're wondering if you're going to do an online meeting, you need some things. You need to understand also how you use those things. And maybe you're just a little bit curious about whether or not there are other clubs that are currently doing online meetings. When I think about what you need, I know my first go-to is, do I have to buy more stuff? I feel like I've got a ton of stuff. Well, yes, you actually might need to buy more stuff. You might not. It depends. What I have here is equipment that you might need. There's two sets. If we look at the set where the globe is, you need a computer or a tablet or a phone. You need some way of connecting audio. There are some methods that are better than others. I actually have an external mic that looks a lot like this one. It's a Yeti mic. You get better sound quality. It's more reliable because it's USB connected directly to my computer. There's a wired connection. But you can also use a Bluetooth headset. In fact, I've got one that I'm using for speaker right now. Your webcam might be built into your computer, your camera, so that people can see you, can see your beautiful smile, your beautiful face, your expressions, and hopefully not too much clutter behind you. That's for your personal setup. You can use any of those devices. Typically a tablet and a phone will have a web camera and audio built in. A laptop usually does also, although the microphone quality is, you get mixed results. A desktop computer might or might not have those things built in, and you might need to purchase them if you do not have them. This is for your setup at home for attending web meetings where you're sharing video at home. If you're not sharing video, you really just need an audio device like your telephone. Easy. Now this other picture with a lot of white in these two screens is what a video conference room setup looks like. Ideally, if you were going to have a hybrid meeting where you have some people in a room and they're all together in the room and a smaller number of people are remote, they're online. You want to have a video conference setup where you can have one screen show the other participants and one screen that shows what's going on in the room or a presentation. You want to have a large speakerphone, something like this. There's pucks, there's polycoms, any number of devices that are similar to that allow multiple people to have conversations without generating that pesky little feedback noise that we've all come to wince at knowingly. You know, when they're testing the mic and you get that really high-pitched squeal, that's what happens if you have more than one speaker in a room where the microphone is also located. This example also shows a web camera. This is probably a remote control. The room setup, when you're doing that hybrid situation, is much more complicated in terms of getting the right equipment all set up. But sometimes you can get creative. In one of the clubs that I'm a member, Wilder Side, we use my handy dandy tablet to act, and I'm going to pull this out. Pardon the crash. Tablet. For one of our video projectors, and then we make sure we use a puck or other external microphone for the audio and turn off the audio on the other device that's not in use, again, to avoid that pesky, noisy feedback. There are a ton of video conference tools. These are some common ones that you might have run across. Freeconferencecall.com, I think, is the only one that's truly free. The rest of them have monthly subscription fees. GoToMeeting is moderately used. Your workplace is likely using Skype for Business, maybe not. Personally, users will use Microsoft Skype. JoinMe, WebEx is very common as well. But why do I have a blue box around that Zoom? Well, because that's what Toastmasters seem to be using worldwide for their online meetings, which is why I'm going to show the examples throughout the rest of this session using Zoom. If you want to review other software tools for video conferencing, I've got one link there. There's Oodles. You could be researching this for days. It all depends on what you're trying to get out of the tool and how much you want to spend. All right. How do you use these tools? Wait, you're already using it because we're all online right now on Zoom meeting. You already have a good idea of how to connect. Zoom has a multitude, a plethora of tutorials, all on their website. Again, you can do a quick internet search. On their website, the tutorials themselves are either text-based or a combination of text with little videos that you can watch, which means they're going to show you step-by-step how to do it in Zoom. They've already done all the work. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but what I am going to do is tell you a little bit more about some differences between the tools. What you're watching me display right now is on a laptop. You've got the full width of the screen. It gives you a wide, full screen. This is an example of what the screen might look like, and this lovely share screen button is the same kind of button that I clicked. However, if you are using a tablet or a smartphone, you're going to get a skinnier screen. And what I've seen is that instead of this wide screen, you get a narrow screen. And I think I look a little squished when I've watched it through my phone. In that portrait view, if you turn your phone sideways to that landscape view, so this way rather than this way, you get a little better, but it's still not the whole screen. Interestingly enough, you can actually share your screen with all three devices, a tablet, a smartphone, or a computer, laptop. It could be a computer or a laptop. Those will give you that wide full screen. However, the buttons don't look the same when you go to share it. On your computer, look at how easy it is to find the share screen button. It's bright, it's green, it stands out from every other button. On an Android phone, it's a pale green outline. On an Apple phone, it's not even green. And it's not the same shape. It's a circle. We were working in a meeting where we were trying to point out to one of our team members how to share the screen. What we didn't realize is he was on an Apple tablet, which meant it wasn't a green button at all that he needed to be looking for. But we were all on Windows devices and had no clue. One thing to keep in mind then is that it doesn't look the same on every device. If you are the host, usually only the host needs to have a subscription, and note that $, usually paid, for the tool. A free Zoom account does work, but you only can use it for 40 minutes for group meetings. If you want a group meeting, you're getting a license. When you go to schedule the meeting, you really want to have time to connect in advance. For those who showed up early, they saw Michael and me talking. Well, why was that? Because we connected in advance to make sure everything worked, the audio was connected, the lighting was good, the video was running, that there weren't any glitches or issues with our connections, and that our equipment was working. You want to make sure you have that time as the host and that your participants have some of that time as well. There is a special host tutorial for Zoom, and I've put the link here. Again, if you go out to Zoom support, you will find everything there. However, Murphy's Law is real. Set up in advance. I say this because no matter what you do, how good your practice is, something will happen. You might need to get a software update. When you go to use these tools, almost all of them require an install. They claim they have a web version that works. It doesn't work as well as the desktop version or the installed version on your phone or tablet. So plan time in advance to install the software. You want to test how it all works. For me, I happen to have been in a meeting about an hour ago where I got to test all of my devices, my connectivity, my lighting, everything. Lucky me. But if I hadn't, I would have been practicing prior to connecting with Michael. Having a plan B is important. What do I mean by plan B? Well, if my tablet wasn't working and that was my primary way to connect, I might want to have a backup plan. For example, my cell phone. All right, I have a plan B. If my slides didn't work, I'd need to have a plan B on how I would show you the information in a different way and still ensure that the content gets shared. You want to think about that in advance because something will go wrong. In fact, when I grabbed my tablet that I thought was all ready to go, easy to grab, I'm pretty sure everyone else heard that little clanging sound as something near the tablet got knocked to the floor. Yeah, if that's the worst thing that goes wrong, I'm rocking it though. Now I do have a few more tips. And yes, they are all things that I learned the hard way. So I learned them the hard way and you won't have to. Connect at least 15 minutes in advance. If you're using a tool for the first time, 15 minutes isn't enough. The first time I used a WebEx, I could not get the numbers to work. I couldn't figure out how to get the phone connected to my headset. It seemed like everything went wrong, and it took me about 20 minutes to get it all working. If it's the first time, 15 minutes isn't enough. If you've used the tool recently, same day, 15 minutes might do it. For calls outside of Toastmasters, share your video when it matters. Some of the calls that I'm on a daily basis are job interviews. Video really helps. However, your video takes up a lot of bandwidth, and if you're in a place where you don't have a strong connection, it's a low quality connection, or you're very far from, you're kind of out in the boonies and you're using your cell phone, well, that video is going to suck so much bandwidth that nobody's going to be able to hear your audio. You might negotiate and say, you know what, I'm not going to share the video so that we can actually hear each other. It's a choice. But for group meetings, sharing the video is really a best practice so that you can see each other. You can interact with each other. You can look at the smiles and the eye contact and really make that connection. The mute control is your best friend. I cannot emphasize that enough. I'll be at work. Someone walks up to talk to me and I forget to put it on mute. You never know. You really want to make sure you've muted when you're not the one speaking, because that does reduce the distraction, the clutter of noise. Locate those controls in advance. In Zoom meeting, they're usually at the bottom of your screen. So when you look at the controls, you know where they are, you know where the screen share is. Bonus feature is once you're sharing, those controls that were at the bottom of your screen now hide at the top. You need to know that so you know where to look for them. WebEx does something similar when you're sharing. Lighting matters. Now you can see me pretty well. Not only am I in a lit room, I have a lamp up to my left, and I also have one of these little Selfie lights. It's a little selfie light, and it's clipped to my laptop. Why? Because I found that it was too dark and there were too many shadows, and I wasn't able to be visible. I found out by testing. Why do I have two of these? Remember I talked about Plan B? I was in a meeting 2 weeks ago. The one I was using to illuminate the agenda went out. So I have a backup plan, just in case the one that's illuminating me goes out while we're talking. And one of the odd things that I found out is that Skype for Business doesn't work well with Skype. You'd think they're the same tool, but they're not. Skype for Business generally works inside a closed network, like your work network, whereas Skype is more open and is not network specific. Sometimes they'll work, sometimes they don't. Most of the tools you're going to use do have the same features as you go across. They might be in different places, they might be labeled something different, but most of these tools basically work the same. Bonus tips. I'm showing you everything you might need to know. Okay, not entirely everything, but your backup device. When you bring up your computer, you might need to reboot it. In fact, my favorite one is when I go to bring up a WebEx meeting, I just used an hour ago. Oh, but now there's a system update and you need to do it now. Great. Or there's a WebEx update and you can't use the tool until you get that update installed. This is why you want to make sure you've got that advanced time to prepare, to set up, to connect. Having headphones for your speakers helps reduce that feedback. It means you can hear others well, and the rest of the world isn't hearing nor contributing to your conversation. I like the USB microphone because it's wired, it's connected, it's more reliable. Having a simpler background is great when you can. We don't all have that luxury. And of course, I had to highlight the feline distraction because often one or the other of my cats are guest stars in my meetings. They're going to happen. Again, plan for it. What are you going to do when the cat jumps up on your laptop while you're leading a WebEx? Or maybe you're really smart and you shut the door in a room where the cat's not there. I don't do that as often as I should. Now, who has online meetings? Well, guess what? Toastmasters online clubs using Zoom meeting, just like what we're doing right now. There are a few hybrid clubs in Minnesota that are open. TNT, Toastmasters and Technology, which is a District 6 club. Wilder Side, which is a 106 club. I think I heard Power Talk is going to be experimenting with online meetings starting in January. And Rich Andreessen is working to get one chartered in Pequot Lakes. There's a club officer that can be contacted there. I put the club number because it hasn't got a name yet. You could be part of the beginning of a new club, embarking on a new journey if you wanted to experiment with them. I went through the Find a Club and checked the little box that says allows online attendance. I found that a lot of clubs that have that box checked don't actually allow online attendance. They have no way to connect. So you've got to check. Now, what's really interesting that you may not know is there is a District U, aka undistricted, because there is no geographic boundary for the online-only clubs. These are just some of them, but you can search for online-only clubs on the Find a Club website and get the full list. These ones aren't restricted. And again, every last one of these clubs, much to my surprise, is using Zoom Meeting as their tool. I'm going to say thank you, and let's see what questions we have.
Thank you, Jessica. Let's see what we do have for questions. I did get the email from David Nice. He had a handful of questions on here. David is still on. I may just unmute David. Let him ask for himself. Let's see if I can find him on here. There he is. Let's see. David, you still with us here? You are muted. Go ahead and unmute yourself on the bottom
left
corner. Thank you. I'll try that.
Okay.
I would try really hard. Oh, maybe not. No mute, so maybe David doesn't have a microphone. Maybe that's why he emailed into it. But he had a few questions here that he sent me. Let's see if I can read these here. One question he had was, how do you effectively show the meeting room and attendees and also show the remote participants?
2 screens. So what I do with Wilder Side is we have one screen that is showing just the participants, and we have another screen that we actually use my tablet for that shows the whole room. And we make sure that only one device is on the audio because otherwise it gets icky. It's a bad
Oh,
thing.
I found, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now, Dave.
I found the unmute.
Welcome to the party.
Thanks. Well, so it looks like a meeting room that we would be in would have a big, large flat screen, on the wall. Is that what we're trying to use, splitting that screen? Or, I'm trying to envision a conference room of people looking at something that they can see the speaker, the remote people or persons, and then that person who's remote can see everybody else.
We ended up with that background screen. What you can project is the group and the presenter, because Zoom meeting lets you show the speaker as well as a gallery view. So you can kind of see both on the one screen, but in order to see both sides, you have to have a camera in more than one place. And that's why we ended up using 2 devices. A real video conference room would have a camera focused on the whole room that is actually not remotely, but it's controlled by the audio, and it'll follow the speaker.
Oh, yeah.
And it'll show whoever's speaking in the room, or on the screen, it'll have that kind of split view on the screen between the room and the remote participants.
Okay, and if a person who is remote, with their camera on their laptop, I guess would be what they would use to show themselves.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Very cool. I know you had a whole bunch of questions on your list here, David. I suspect some of those probably got answered throughout.
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
Thank you. And Diane Windeland did chime into the Q&A section. She had asked, what selfie light do you recommend?
Well, I'm a nerd. So I got a selfie light that's got cat ears because I thought it was cute.
So cat ears are highly recommended.
It's a cheap selfie light. It's got like 10 different settings. It's USB charged. I think it was like $8 on Amazon. You can get pretty much, if you search for selfie light, I like the clip.
Ooh, yeah.
The USB charge. And yes, the cat ears were definitely a motivating factor for my choice. And I have 2.
That's great. So one question I had, or I was going to fire out, is where did you find it? So Amazon, you said was it?
Yep.
You just search selfie light and you'll find oodles and oodles.
Oh my gosh. They have giant rings. I wanted something small. You can see proportionally, it's not that big.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want something that was taking up a ton of space. And I just clip it either to my phone. I can demonstrate. Clip, phone.
Just like that. Or
Just like that.
your laptop.
In this case, I've got it clipped. I've got one clip to the top screen of my laptop.
That is fantastic. You know, when you started mentioning that, I thought of the first time I did a Zoom meeting at location I'm at now. We just moved here this summer. So my home office configuration is different from what it was. The first time I had a Zoom meeting was during the day, and I was meeting with Joanna Carley and a few other people. There's a window here behind me, and it was daylight, so the shades were open, the sun was shining in, and Joanna had mentioned, she goes, you look like you're like in the witness protection program. We blacked out.
Lighting matters a lot. It really does.
That was huge. So that was a big thing for me. I was like, oh, I got to fix my lighting situation, which I'm think I got it. I'm still working on it. I turn on every light on the main floor. But.
Mm-hmm.
So Selfie Light, good to know. Thank you very much. The other questions that are coming in on chats. Ann Gretch had asked if you could share this presentation.
Sure.
Jim Emery asked, he asked why is there smudges and fingerprints on your slides?
It's a Blackboard presentation, so it's supposed to look like a chalkboard.
There you are. Is it satisfactory, Jim? And Gretch asked, where do you put it? I'm assuming you're talking about the Selfie Light. You had mentioned you can clip it if it has a clip right to the top.
Mm-hmm. I'll do that.
More questions. I'm going to find Anne. We're going to let her ask for her. That is awesome. My participant list here. Let's find Anne. Let's get Anne on board here. Anne, can you hear us? There she is. Anne, you are unmuted. Can you hear us? We cannot hear you.
No mic.
Oh, she has no microphone. Gotcha.
Well, I'll email the presentation to Michael, and then Michael will decide kind of where to put it, I guess.
Yeah.
Because there's links on there.
Yeah, if you send it to me, I've got the list of all the participants that are online tonight. If you'd like a copy of this presentation, reach out to me, let me know, and I will send it off to you. I'll be sure that Anne, she was the first one to ask, so she gets first dibs.
Somebody was asking where's the clip. It's on the bottom of the light itself.
Dave would like a copy.
It's all one piece. So.
Thank you, Anne. Let's see. Any other questions for Jessica? Some good stuff. She covered a lot of stuff, and I
saw a question about seeing everybody's video, so that if this is a webinar structure, so this Zoom meeting here is actually a Zoom webinar, right, Michael? More like a Zoom room. And
this is Zoom web. Yeah, this is a Zoom web meeting.
Because of the way this meeting is structured, it's designed for only the panelists to be video visible. Otherwise, we'd have everybody kind of stacked up all in these little tiny windows. When you join a Zoom meeting, typically what it defaults to is a gallery view where every speaker is a little square. Mm-hmm. If you go to the TNT Toastmasters website, you can kind of see an example. It looks a lot like Hollywood squares. And the active speaker defaults to be visible on tablets and phones. So the tablets and phones don't seem to do the gallery view very well, but your laptop computer will. And there's a little icon in the upper right-hand corner of Zoom that allow you to toggle between just the speaker or seeing the gallery with the little thumbnails that, again, looks like Hollywood squares to me.
Awesome. Jessica, I love how you covered more of the technical side of webinar meetings. It was more than I expected. I appreciate it.
Well, I couldn't have done it without the great questions that I got from the Leaders Club and Wilder Side, because I said, okay, I'm going to do this presentation. What do you want to know?
Oh, that's great. Best place to get your material from is ask everyone else. What do you want to know? Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, thank you very much. I don't see any new questions. Any last questions for Jessica Parker on her awesome skills of online webinaring? David asked briefly, how good is freeconferencecall.com?
It's okay. I've used it primarily for audio. I haven't used it extensively for video calls where there are multiple participants. Mm-hmm. Since it's free, no harm trying.
Yeah, free.
It's always the right price.
We all love free stuff.
And I think there was one more in the Q&A from Jim Emery, who was looking
Yep.
to understand whether or not there can be audio issues when you're sharing video.
Yeah, I just saw that.
And it's really bandwidth dependent. So if you've got a poor quality cell phone signal and you try to share audio and video, it's going to suck. Blunt, plain and simple. I have a broadband internet connection, no issues. I can run 3-4 of these, no problem. It's all about the connection quality. So at your workplace, easy, no problem. If you are in a very remote location, distant from a cell phone tower, and that's all you've got to work with, you're going to be better off with audio only because your video signal takes up so much more of the electronic transmission.
Absolutely. I've seen that. So typically, would you recommend, and I've seen this before, if your video seems a little jumpy and sketchy, just go to turn your video off and go straight to audio?
Yeah, unless you've got another device and you think it's the device itself that might be low battery.
Yeah, that could be too. Jim Emery wanted to.
Can you hear me?
Yay!
So now my question about audio wasn't bandwidth related or even whether you should do it or not. It's how do you get the level set right? I mean, I know how loud, is it just that it sounds like the correct level in your own headphones when you're listening to it? How are you sure that you've got it's not like so loud that it blows people away at the other end or so soft that they can't hear it?
There's a couple of options. There is a check mark available in your audio settings within Zoom Meeting. So by the microphone where it says mute, there's a little arrow pointing up.
Mm-hmm.
That'll take you to some audio settings. One of those settings allows you to automatically adjust the level of your microphone. Means it'll do it for you and figure it out.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about microphone. I'm talking about replaying video with audio in it.
So when I'm replaying a video with the audio in it, I do test it with whatever space or tools I'm planning to be using in advance. And yeah, I use my speaker as my guide because if it's going to be an online presentation, I'll align it to that. The other thing is, if you can test it with somebody using the same tool prior to the live presentation, you have a chance to say, all right, how did that sound to you? So then you've got somebody else to check with.
All right, that makes sense.
Just like when you check a room, right?
Sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Very cool. Well, thank you. That's a great question. Thank you for asking. Any last minute questions, comments, things to share? See another Q&A.
I know Diane sees my whiteboard behind me. I'm not quite sure what else she's asking about. I've got certificates on the wall. I've got some clutter back there that I wish I didn't, but I'm in my library.
Your whiteboard. There it is. Yeah.
Yep.
Behind me, I had the District 106 banner.
Woohoo!
Thank you very much. Because it goes well with Toolbox Tuesday, and it's actually hiding my Vikings cheerleader. I did not say that out loud. Thank God for editing. Any last questions, comments, whatnot? With not, we are at just past the 9 o'clock hour. Jessica, thank you very much for your presentation tonight. Any other questions do come up between now and any time, feel free to reach out to Jessica Parker if you have her contact information, or reach out to me. I can be reached at pqdirector@d106tm.org, or you can use the other email that I shared in the chat box. I'm a pretty easy guy to find. Any questions that you want to get to me that you can't get a hold of Jessica, I can always forward those on. For the few people that requested, I will share the presentation that Jessica will share with me.
Yep.
With you. We had a good audience tonight, a lot of participants tonight, so I'd like to thank every one of you. Thank you, Jim, Mark, Ronald, Tanya, Jim, Janie, Diane, Dave, Bill, Ann, Helen, and 651230. I'm not sure who that is. Thank you for dialing in and joining us. I would like to host more of these Toolbox Tuesdays. If anyone is interested in being a presenter for Toolbox Tuesday, please let me know and let me know a topic you would like to cover, and we will get you on the schedule. I'm looking to fill the schedule for January, February, and March. I have a handful of openings available. As I mentioned, if you have a topic you'd like to share, you'd like to present on, please let me know. We will get those up. Once again, Jessica, thank you very much for your insight and education tonight. This will be, once we do some minor editing and tweaking, this will be available on the District 106 website under Toolbox Tuesday, archived under the D106 YouTube channel. For those members that we run into that missed tonight's event, please let them know to check this out, as well as some of the other ones that are on there. We've had some good ones this year. We had some great ones last year as well. Looking to put many more good ones up on the site online. Once again, thanks everyone for joining in. And I believe we are free to go. This meeting is adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, thank you.